Hello and welcome everyone, I'm C.S.Gilmore and this is PowerWash Simulator. It's also going to be a bit of a Tales from the Gilded Gob episode combined, because I figured, this way I get some gameplay things going on in the background while talking about something related to, say, D&D or some other RPG, role-playing, that sort of deal. And part of that is also because I like to have something to talk about while we do this. And also because I've had some stuff on my mind that I wanted to talk about, and it's been a while since I put out one of those episodes. Alright, real doozy for you when you can spare a minute. Okay. It seems our little town is going up in the world. Muckingham Skate Park has been chosen to host the next county championships. Ordinarily, I'd leave the sullen types to roll around on their own filth, as is their wont. But if it's getting in the papers on TV, we can't have people seeing all that grime and funny writing. So I want you to hit it with everything you've got. Alright, let's jump on into wherever the skate park here and see what we can do with it. Ooh, boy, this is, hey, sounds my phone, 1 sec. Edit, okay, good. This is looking like it is going to be a mess. Anyone ever explained to you what kind of compound they use for structures such as these? Oh, that's why I've got the wrong type of thing on here. I haven't have that. That's why my sprayer was looking so weird. Actually, let's swap it out to no, not that one. This one. There we go. All right. So yeah. Anyway, as I was saying, I think this will also be a bit of a Tales from the Gilded Gob episode. Because I've been thinking about some stuff, probably in part because I've been playing a bunch of Dead by Daylight lately, and along with D&D, when I can with my family, though it hasn't been as much as we would like to people having health issues and, life in general. But also just some thoughts that came to mind due to random junk that gets stuck in your head, this type of things. So, where to start with this? I think I've mentioned it before, but I'm an English major. Growing up and kind of getting and going into college and everything, I started off thinking, maybe I'll become a writer, and that never really happened. And I now work in more business type stuff, and part of that is because I'm not really good at just making myself sit down and write, and I'm also not the best writer by far. Probably doesn't help that my main go-to for writing is in the more horror area, which isn't the most popular of genres for a lot of people. Plus, there's the issue of, for whatever reason, I go for creepy horror in my, let's see, what was that by? Not that one. Alright, there we go, that's the button that lets me do that. I've been a little bit since I did this. I always forget which button is the one that lets me not have to move my screen up and down. But, part of it is also, for whatever reason, when I go to write horror, it generally comes across as maybe macabre comedy would be the right way to describe it. Like, it doesn't come across as, like, horror as I aim for. Probably that's just partly me and how I write, but and how my brain works, too, because I don't get scared by things as well as I used to growing up, and so I think that translates somewhat to my own writing as well. And that kind of way I face things that are scary, bleeds over into my writing, and then it becomes a, what would be the right word? Yeah, it becomes comedic, because that's how I tend to approach things. Anyhow, how this would tie into Tales from the Gilded Gob is this idea that I had, basically due to a lyric that got stuck in my head and then altered. And the idea would be basically the origin story for a blood hunter. Now, this was primarily actually an initial story idea, but I could look at it, I was like, this is actually a great origin story for a blood hunter. This is the sort of thing that could work for it. And the idea would be, how it came about was, some of you may know Los Miserables, with that song, "Can you hear the people sing? 'Tis the song of angry men." That song? Well, my brain took that and then went and started rewriting lyrics. So it was, "Can you hear the people scream? 'Tis the sound of frightened men. Those who once were hunted, who will now be prey again." And yeah, so my brain went with that. And the setting for it was, okay, there is an old monster hunter. And he gets betrayed. Oh, hey, I see cat prints. Or if this is that mayor's cat that was missing. But anyway, he gets betrayed by the young blood hunter, the new hunters that get brought, that he's been training, because they're in it for the profit. He's in it for more of the, rescue people thing. Long term, he's an old monster hunter type deal. And so they betray him during a hunt, say vampires, and then he gets some infection from that while they leave him for dead and think he's been killed by these things. He's, due to being a good hunter, manages to survive, but gets grievously wounded, gets infected with, either purposefully or on accident, as a result of the fight, some monster blood. Like I say, vampires would be a great one for that. So he's now out for revenge against those that abandoned him, and because they're in it for just to get profit out of it, not to actually help the world. And I was thinking that song would work for it as something for him to be chanting or singing a bit as he approaches their hideout, because he would know where their hideout is, being the one who founded it. And then he would probably just go in and be able to mop up, because he's got the experience, and also now he's got, say, vampire powers or something. He would know how to fight the hunters who are trying to kill him as a vampire, but also because he's the one who trained him for it. And the reason he'd be seeing that is because I bet a lot of monster hunters would be previous victims, people who had been getting, attacked by some cryptid or whatever, and been rescued or escaped, survived themselves somehow. So it would be his way of kind of triggering a little psychological trauma on him as he approaches to get his revenge. My mind sees this as he comes in, he's just, some night, it's dark, maybe morning's approaching, but just enough for there to be a little bit of light, each from the moon, or and a touch of the horizon starting to show a touch of light. When they see a figure approaching wearing his customary clothing of, hat, probably a duster of some sort, raincoat, something that's slightly waterproofed. The classic look for a monster hunter of trench coat type deal. And they see this guy approaching. Of course, they would recognize that. It's his. One of them calls out, "Oh, hey! You made it! We thought you were dead!" And, of course, he knows. having seen them be one of the people that, shut the door on him, perhaps, that, they're just trying to play it off, hoping he didn't notice, but also probably to buy time while they get ready to do something about it. Then he, oh, yes, it was a close thing. But I know. And then, he knows they're going to come in with a swing from here, go for this. Probably, right now they might just think he's just an old hunter, and he's probably injured. He may even be walking with a limp to emphasize that. Or, that's the right word. Emphasize. I can pronounce these words, really. Then he surprises them by suddenly having much more strength and speed than he would normally have. Especially at his age. And that's when they start realizing he's not human anymore entirely. So they change up to, how they fight a vampire. Or go for the heart, cut off the head, that sort of thing. Get a steak. But he knows where they keep all that stuff on their person, can intercept them when they go to reach for a steak or garlic, or holy water, or whatever. Anyway, takes him out, gets inside, starts going through the hideout. And the whole story with all this would be just a fun little either backstory for maybe not necessarily the monster hunter, especially for playing from level 0. Oh, for a blood hunter type build, but this is leading up to where their backstory would come in. Though this would be great for a backstory for, say, an older one. If you're going for someone with higher experience and starting at a higher level, because after he's done getting his revenge and taking out the people that abandoned him and betrayed him, he realizes 1, he is a monster, and 2, they still need monster hunters. And he just got rid of the ones because they weren't really worthy of being monster hunters. That leaves him with his knowledge of how to be a monster hunter, but he's also a monster. He's going to have to train new monster hunters. And so, if you're playing an older one, that's great. You could be out there looking for new trainees to take in, while also being a monster yourself and having to live with that and how to handle that. Maybe you are trying to avoid falling victim to the classic, oh, I have to not eat people type of deal. Or you could be the trainee, one of the people that he takes in, because for a story, I was thinking, man, then he could realize, well, most monster hunters are people that have, survived being hunted. I'm a monster now. I can accommodate that sort of thing. I forgot how to change the angle on this thing. Controls. Extend, sprint, washer extension, soap, switch nozzle, select nozzle, toggle washer, next nozzle, previous nozzle, aim mode, rotate equipment. Z. Okay, that was it. No? Wait. Am I misunderstanding something? Alright, we're just gonna... Give me a minute. No? Why is this not working? But yeah, so... He realizes, I can, bring people in. And that would be a great backstory for a low-level character, is you're one of the new hires that he's brought in, is trying to raise properly to... You're not out there for the money. You're in there to actually save people, to help them. Rotate anti-clockwise, rotate clockwise. Z and X. Why isn't that working? Maybe I have to change the equipment to a different nozzle? Nope, I got nothing. Oh well, we'll make it work. Looks like I need to just get a ladder. And I thought that would be a fun little just twist on everything for some of that. Because, yeah, you're going to come in and your character's going to be going and trying to be a new monster hunter. Maybe they've been slightly infected by their master, but only slightly. Not enough to become a full monster themselves, but, you get the blood hunter trait, so you've got some connection to the creatures you're hunting. And because he's, trying some new things with the next generation of hunters. Plus, let's say maybe the idea is you're kind of been sent out on your own now, but you've also now realized, wait, my old master isn't human. Why is this control scheme being weird for me? Okay, there we go. Working with it. So yeah, that would be my idea for a basic blood hunter build. Of changing up why you have what's your motivation? Maybe you've realized your master is a monster, and now you've got to try to deal with it. Your goal is to put down your master because, maybe they have started to lose. Maybe part of the reason you're infected isn't necessarily that they're using new methods, but that they've started to lose the fight against their monster nature. And you managed to escape them when they lost control. Or you just disagree with their methods and are trying to, I realize they are a monster and maybe they, have been attacking people, doing harm, whether they meant to or not, and you are doing your job as a monster hunter to try to stop them. Just little things that I think of in my free time that come to mind, and I'm probably not explaining this very well because I'm too focused on doing too many other things at once with this, but it's an experiment I wanted to do. Monster hunters in general are, something that I like as a D&D character. Anyway, you don't have to be a blood hunter, obviously, for D&D. But that was the story that I had come into my head. I was like, that would be a really good blood hunter origin story. Or at least a faction of blood hunters. But I also, it would just be a fun little short story, but I probably lack the ability to really bring it to life without it somehow devolving into a comedy. I don't know why it is my writing sometimes, but it just comes across weird. Not as, I go for horror and it comes across as, yeah, that was funny in a weird, macabre way, perhaps, but, it wasn't, I'm scared. It was, that's that's the one way to do it. Even that is probably doing it justice as to how it comes across with my writing. Sometimes. Oh well. This area is very dirty and taking quite a while to get through. Maybe I could have done a better job of it with going faster under certain conditions, but hard to say. At least I don't have to keep using special solvents on this level. There we go. There we go. Alright. Now, I don't know blood hunters as well as a class as I know most other classes in D&D. My general understanding is they're usually, a bit of a monster themselves in some degree. They're usually either as a result of having been fighting the monsters for so long, or perhaps even as part of the initiation into whatever hunter clan they're part of. That is their way of fighting these creatures, like fighting fire with fire. gaining some power themselves. You know, a lot of the classics tend to work well with the Blood Hunter build. Other than the vampire, there's, werewolf. Another easy one for, oh yes, you got infected, but you're trying not to succumb to your curse while using it for good. Vampires, once again, because of the bloodlust, and need to survive and avoid the stun. Even being part vampire, can, partly turned, maybe you haven't actually drank human blood, and haven't fully given into being a vampire yet. Your character then still has to, maybe make a save occasionally against it. Gives your DM a lot of fun toys to play with. I'm trying to think what other type of blood hunters there are, though. I have to look that one up. I don't know enough about that class. Ideal-wise, whether there is such a build design already out there, for them officially, or if you just want to make up your own, more or less, with your DM. Lots of ideas there that you could work with. Another good one is something with a bit of ranger or druid capabilities. That could easily be a workable situation. Say you got raised or captured by dryads at some point in time, perhaps, or the Fae. D&D, you have the hags, which repopulate by eating a child, by eating an infant, and then they give birth to a new hag. If I remember the lore correctly there. And yeah, but what if you, if your DM decides not to go with quite the official lore on that, you could go with some other things. Like, maybe there's other ways for a hag to populate. What if they just take someone and raise them and start performing specific rituals with them to turn them over time into a hag? Well then, what are you going to do with that? If you, realized what was going on and didn't want to become a hag, realized that the old lady you grew up with wasn't the nice old lady she initially seemed to you. And that those moments where she seemed perhaps a little extra cruel about something was more her actual nature slipping out. That could be a good twist for a, once again, blood hunter type setup. You could also use that one actually for a sorcerer. Yeah, no, you could definitely use that one for either a blood hunter or a sorcerer. Oh yes, you got a bit of Fey blood in you. But is that because of you're part Fey, or is it because you've been turned into one partially? After all, the Fey have some abnormal magics, kind of like dragons in D&D. Dragons break the rules all the time. Because they can just go and, there's a reason you get all sorts of weird combos between sorcerers, dragonborn, and other things. It's because dragons can just polymorph or whatever. And do all sorts of things. They can interbreed with other races, no problem. They break all the barriers, because they can just ignore the barriers. Thanks to ancient magic and dragon magic, which is, I feel like D&D doesn't touch on pure dragon magic as much as it used to. Maybe I've just not read the correct books for that. I'm sure there's a few out there that kind of get into it, but a lot of recent wizard stuff doesn't hit on certain things nearly as much as some of the older ones did. It feels like, in general, though it's been years, so I could be remembering through rose-tinted glasses, as it were, for some of the older editions. That's another great way to have to do a blood hunter, though. Someone of draconic blood. A bit of that mixed in there. Maybe they specialize in hunting dark dragons, or good dragons if they happen to be evil people, if you're playing an evil character. But yeah, you specialize in hunting draconic types. And depending on how your DM does it, that could cross over into several different things, including probably like basilisks and various other lizard types. But, kind of, the problem with blood hunters is, other than their weird, I hurt myself to imbue my weapon with magical properties, and other, to cast their spells, they use their blood type stuff. In a lot of cases, they feel a lot like rangers, from what I've seen of them. Because rangers, once again, tend to also specialize in specific enemy types, though rangers also get a terrain bonus. I don't think blood hunters get that. Oh well. Role-playing wise, yeah, you could go the classic route. Someone who is a blood hunter and fighting things to, save the day, be the classic hero. Or the anti-hero type deal of, they weren't necessarily the hero, but here they are stuck with powers, and it kind of ties in with their whole, trying to get revenge against whoever did this to them type spiel. You could run that. You could also run the whole, they are being altruistic. They are out there trying to save people from harm. And that could leave your DM with some interesting things, especially since a lot of things a blood hunter would be, associated with, and also likely to hunt, tend to be somewhat sentient in many cases. So you could, if your DM's one of those ones that can pull it off and really likes that sort of thing, you could, with a party and all, you could get into all sorts of, what would be the best term? Morality issues? Of like, are you any better than the monster hunting them down at this point? Are they really a monster? Did you get turned against your will? Were you turned accidentally? Was them turning you part of the reason, to save your life, perhaps? You were dying, and they imparted some of their power trying to save you, and maybe you didn't take too kindly to that in the long run. But, maybe they meant well. Or maybe they didn't. Maybe they were, one we see in a number of shows, and anime and other things, they're just out there, infecting people for kicks and giggles to, just reap chaos upon the world. They want to cause problems, so they just go out and infect anyone they can, as many people as they can, to spread the problem and keep the normal hunters busy and all that. Maybe we're part of a cult. The way I remember when blood hunters kind of first came out and were a thing. I remember reading somewhat about them. There was a lot of you could definitely take it all sorts of ways of, you're generally reluctant. You're not, you don't become a blood hunter for fun. You become a blood hunter because, hey, you got infected with X and X, and now you've got to live with that. Good luck with that. Can I leave the boundaries of this place? I cannot. Okay, well that answers that question. I was trying to wonder if I could, because I'm kind of on the fence, literally, here. Quite literally, I am on the fence of this area. And normally I think I'd be falling off this side. But, because it's the edge of the map, I am not. Hopefully I don't accidentally glitch it. Find some way to slip off the edge of my map and get stuck outside. Though with how the traversal in this game goes, probably not too likely to happen. And there's a good chance that there would be a way to bounce up on top of something in a way that I could jump back over. Alright. Let's keep going. Why can't I remember the button to change the angle on this? Or why isn't it working? I am fairly confident I'm pushing the right button. And it is not doing anything. Ah, well. Let's see where these cat prints go. Alright, they go in here, they come over here, and then they go right back out. Looks of things, up on here. Yep, and out they went. So the cat came this way, but then left. Also, is it me? Maybe it's just because, you know, like they tend to trigger on percentages of area complete. But it feels like these later maps, besides being bigger and, you know, messier, don't seem to have as many, like, say, text messages come in. I'm noticing that like, some of the other maps, it felt like you got text messages all the time going, hey, here's an update on this, or hey, wanted to chat about that from the clients, or hey, I've got a new thing for you. This one's been pretty quiet so far in that regard. Yep, alright. Anyway. Some of you might be wondering, like, what do I mean, like, my horror tends to come across as a comedy? And it's been a while since I wrote, so I'm not sure if I can properly explain. Well, let's see, it's been a while. So, when I was in college, I wrote a short story for a class. And once again, I was going for a horror type thing. Based on the, Welcome to the Hotel California. Based on that song. And so I had a bunch of, like, callbacks to that song throughout this story. Like, and the idea was, person arrives at is working at a hotel that is, like, currently shut down. But they're there, you know, doing repairs, general maintenance, getting it ready for reopening. And then their boss is like, you know, all right, I gotta go take care of some stuff. They get left alone, and then spooky stuff starts happening, ghostly things, and all that junk. And then they go through, you know, the whole Hotel California thing of, like, you know, someone trying to invite them in for a good time, you know, people doing all sorts of stuff throughout, being weird, acting strange. There's a dining hall with some weird monstrosity being served on a platter, and the creature's still alive, but there's just people around it, you know, stabbing it and cutting off pieces and eating them and all that. It's an old story, and I don't remember how exactly I had all of it laid out. And yeah, the end bit was that he gets up to, like, the front desk, and he can't leave. And what's the clerk or maitre d'? What was the right word? I mean, how the heck do you make a slope out of concrete? Alright. Whatever, park warden, you're kind of going... Why are you saying that now? I think it ties in something they said earlier, but anyway. Back to the story. Hotel California, and he finds out he can't leave, and then he talks to the person who, like, handles the checkout desk. I really can't think of the right term for him right now. When he's told, oh, but, you know, you can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave, type that line. And it's like, no, but your name is in the book. And the idea would be that his boss made a deal with the devil, who's the person at the front desk there, that, you know, he gets X number of years of success, and in return, he has to, offer up his soul type deal after a certain amount of time. And his boss has tried to weasel his way out of it by sacrificing him, the worker, because the way you get trapped is by signing in at the book, and they had to do that when they came in to do the job. I forget how I had the initial story go, whether it was that his boss had signed his name in there, had signed the worker's name in the book instead of his own, or that the boss had tried to weasel his way out of it by having him sign them in, by having the worker sign them into the hotel. But the boss failed to account for the fact that because it's, the business and everything, the worker signed in as him. I can't remember how exactly it had the whole ideal there. There was some loophole of it, of basically he didn't actually have his name in the book, or he hadn't signed it himself. Some disqualifier had taken place, and his boss was actually the one who was, soul's payments due, you're trapped here. And he ends up being told, okay, you can leave for now. He actually gets to leave in the end, while his boss gets trapped. It was an odd story. Long piece, a short story type deal. And it's been years and years and years since I wrote it, so apologies if I'm misremembering any pieces and for the vagueness on a few bits. But the whole thing I presented in a class, and I recall whatever it was, for whatever reason, everyone thought, I had thought, I'd gone for horror. I think it was probably the twist at the end there that I tried for, that threw it into it. Whatever reason, the people who read it were like, yeah, okay, it's more of a comedy. And that was something that happened, I want to say, more than once in college during stories I wrote. For what, I guess maybe it's just the way I like to write and end my stories. Part of it comes across as more comedic in the end, even though I may have been going for a horror aspect when I was initially doing it, with the writing and everything. When I was initially putting in the writing, I was going for horror, but it comes across not horror in the end. Looking back on it, I wonder if it's also because I tend to do too much, the twists tend to be a little too nice. Okay, yes, he gets to leave, but does he really get to stay gone, or will he be back? Will the hotel come for him again someday? A little too light. Even though he may have gone through a bunch of horrific things in the process of getting out of there, maybe I just, the ending was too lightly toned, and so it lost the horror aspect by the end, and that's what people remembered. Fun times. Horror writing is what it is. And writing in general. It also probably doesn't help that I have if any of you have watched this channel for a while and seen some of my more horror gameplays, once again, I have a bad tendency of turning a horror game into more of a comedic event, because I tend to make fun. I'm that horrible person that makes fun of horror movies. So I'll be sitting there watching it going, no, don't do it. You're stupid. Don't split up. Oh, well, you're dead. I'm, or, you know, I'm the guy who's like going, that was a pretty good jump scare. Nice try, though. It didn't quite work. Could have been, yeah, maybe try again. Good job, Ghost. That one actually got me. Things to think about. Fun times, oddities of life, and just how we are perceived by those around us sometimes. To be fair, I'm not the best with people in general, social situations, and understanding emotions. Also not the best at that. A little too autistic for some of that. Which is probably also why some of my why I had trouble with some of those things, because hard to portray certain characteristics and emotions and behaviors when what's normal for me isn't always normal for everyone else. I come from a long line of people who are abnormal in some degree or another, for various reasons. Can't remember if that reminds me of a story, family history story of sorts. Now, this one isn't necessarily due to a genetic quality, as far as I know, though I haven't been able to entirely disprove it either. Well, my grandparents, if I remember right, or great-grandparents. Anyway, slightly distant relative was a chain smoker. I mean, like, go through multiple packs in a day, really bad. I was too young to really remember much about this, but my mom tells the story of they chain smoked enough that their blood was actually toxic. You could watch a mosquito bite them and die, which is not healthy, and they weren't exactly, like, at that point, they were dying of a cancer. I forget which type of cancer, but, you know, I can't remember if it was due to the smoking or if they were just like, yeah, at that point, you know, smoking and whatever, I'm already got cancer, what do I care? I didn't know them well enough to know all their motivations on some of that, or to know what triggered what. There's unfortunately a few issues of that in my family of, okay, so-and-so died of this or that, but was that because of their lifestyle, or is that because of a genetic sensitivity to it? Hard to say. So my genetics could be a horrible mess at some point that I have to watch out for things. Could be I'm perfectly fine, as long as I don't go, you know, dipping myself in radioactive waste. My mom has the problem of she gets pneumonia very easily. Pneumonia has a sort of thing of, you know, once you get pneumonia once, you tend to be more susceptible to getting it again, because it kind of screws up your lungs a bit. My mom's problem is that she tends to get septic pneumonia anymore because some doctors didn't treat her with the proper meds very well some while back, and it led to some issues with, you know, pneumonia doing more damage and not clearing up as well as it should have at one point. She's got an area in at least one of her lungs which tends to be very susceptible to just suddenly going septic because it doesn't clear out properly anymore. It's got scar tissue. But even still, even with all her issues with her lungs and all that, it tends to land her in the hospital with pneumonia. The doctors still, like my mom and my sister, have learned to be very forceful with the doctors on, no, we need to treat this with this with this, and check for this, because you won't hear any issues with my lungs just listening type deal. You have to run a CT scan in order to even see anything, and then, oh gee, what do you mean my lungs full of liquid in this lower half? Because for whatever reason, it doesn't. My mom's lungs don't make the sounds a lung normally would when full of liquids and other issues most of the time. And she tends to have such a good lung capacity that she doesn't display the symptoms nearly as well and as forcefully as most people do when they get that sort of issue. So it's very easy for, say, a doctor that doesn't know better, that doesn't know her that well, or that, is just, used to people acting up their symptoms to be like, well, you're obviously not in that much pain and discomfort, so you're fine. And yeah, so like I said, my mom and my sister have learned to be very direct with it. I say my sister because my sister works in the medical field. She works in like the ambulance services, and she's very used to dealing with things, and also is very familiar with both the doctors and with my mom's health, having had to take her to the ER on more than one occasion, having recognized, the reason you're all tired like this right now and everything is because you're about to keel over if you don't get to the doctor now. Well, my mom doesn't always recognize the symptoms until, she's on death's door. Not because she's dumb about it necessarily, but because she literally just doesn't feel the symptoms to that degree. Until it's suddenly like, oh, wow, I'm dying. Even my mom's coworkers are like, when you're sick, it's either you're fine, you're at work, or you're in the hospital. There is no in between most of the time. And my mom's learning in her old age now to recognize when, okay, I need to take a sick day now. And thankfully, she works for a place that has been very good about treating their employees well and helping out with that. And being like, yeah, okay, yep, you've got some PTO, here you go, no issues. She's got some good managers and everything else, and like I said, the company itself is good. My mom currently is working for Hobby Lobby, and yeah, they've been treating their employees very well. And you can see, you get some people complain about Hobby Lobby for various reasons, and yeah, probably so the owners. It sounds like the owners have done some sketchy stuff on times. But what is also very evident is they do treat their employees well for the most part. My mom works with, knows a lot of people that have been there working for the company for years and years, multiple years, and have no plan on leaving. Most people in other jobs are like, well, yeah, no, as soon as I can get out of here, I'm out of here. And the part of the reason is not because the job gives them a, oh yeah, you'll never find work anywhere else type of issue, but rather a, why would you want to leave? We give you great benefits and everything. My mom even says there's one guy who has been gone for 3 months because he needed to take care of his mother, who was not doing great and everything. And he was told, and when you're done, when you're ready to come back, you've got a job still. And a lot of places would be like, you're gone for 3 months. Sorry, we'll get you replaced. You're out. So, funny things like that happen in life. And I've gotten off topic. Well, or jumped through about 6 different topics. Well, that's what's bound to happen when I'm talking for this long, going over things, because this is taking a long time to clean. I should have known better, because it looked like a bigger job. I mean, it was a $900 job and everything, so I think we'll get a big chunk of that as soon as I get to these wider areas cleaned off, the ground in a few of these areas. It's just a wide area. And I bet it'll pay most of the bill once I get it done. It's just going through it. I've been kind of focusing on the walls and the nitty-gritty over there for now. On the edges of everything. Upper floor. Okay, this kind of upper floor too, so yeah, this is all upper floor. These kind of stairs, they're separate. That counts as a quarter pipe. Okay. It's interesting to see in this game how they split things up sometimes. Where they're like, yes, this is where the new item, this item starts and this one ends. Well, this item over here is this giant amalgamation of things. This little one is broken up into 60 different pieces because reasons. Probably it was just how the game kind of fell together with like design aspects and like, okay, cool, this item is easier to build in multiple pieces than putting them together into, say, make stairs. While this item is just easier to create a partial loop, a partial circle, and, you know, there we go, a ramp. Boom, one piece. Fun times. I'm just trying to think of this from, like, say, a design point of view, because I did try to teach myself Blender at one point. Did not get far with that, unfortunately. Blender is very hard to learn. Hey there, I've got one heck of a filthy sidecar if you can fit us in. I can run it up to you if that helps. Okay, looks like we got another vehicle job. What does that leave? 2 vehicle jobs now? If there's one thing I know about concrete, it's that it likes to be as flat as possible. I'm kind of curious why do skate parks usually have a park warden? When I think of park warden, I think of, like, you know, wildlife preserve type deal, or like forest ranger, not someone who takes care of a skate park. I don't know. Weird thought there. The rail is still filthy. Need to get down more. Yeah, it's on the bottom. That's why. There we go. Okay. Stairs, 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 stairs. Yeah. This is easy to clean at least. Nice. Easy to reach, no weird angles. I don't have to stand at like a odd middle of a corner of something else in order to have a proper angle and reach on it. I can just walk along and spray this down. Very nice. Nice to not have a complicated item to have to wash. And it's just a matter of going up and down it with this at the right angle and distance to just blast all this dirt off. Also, the dirt on this is actually coming off fairly easily, which is nice. As well. So this, once again, one thing that this game does not do realistically is the whole, you have to start from the top and work your way down normally with cleaning something like this, because everything's going to flow downhill. And that means I could get these walls spotless, and then, 1, I could easily splash stuff back up on the wall in real life, and 2, anything from the wall would then be on the ground. And then I'd have to wash it off from there, probably find a drainage ditch or something to run it off into. Then there's the whole issue of pollution and chemicals, and how are they being disposed of or treated. That's a whole other conversation mess that I'm not prepared to get into. Let's see. Talking about things I've written before, getting back on that topic a bit, and also things that might make a fun D&D idea. A story I tried writing never got around to really refining it. I really should dig up that old file and redo it, and see if I can make it good. I think it was one of my earlier writing attempts, if I remember right. The idea was horror story once again, but the person going out traveling somewhere out west, big open area, finds a small town, and has to deal with an issue of being attacked by monsters and whatnot. And the source of these monsters would generally be like coyotes and things that have been kind of mind controlled. I was thinking sort of like the cordyceps mushroom, but rather than mushrooms, I was thinking mold, like black mold, but it's a weird mutant version from some of the radiation like areas where they tested radiation out there, or maybe someone developed it in a lab as a bioweapon type deal. And because out west they did a lot of nuclear tests, and so was this black mold developed a loose form of sentience, and also an ability to like grow on a person very aggressively, or on a creature very aggressively, and when it reaches a certain point, it burrows into their central nervous system and basically puppets them. I was also in a very much Resident Evil feel and phase with that time of writing, if I remember right. To be fair, if you've read some of the Resident Evil stories, I probably wrote about that level, and some of those levels were not great. They aren't bad, but they're not phenomenal. They're not like, oh yeah, this is going to be a bestseller 15. They tend to be more of a, yep, this is Resident Evil. Maybe I'm just writing into the wrong target audience in that regard. I'm trying to be too serious, and I should be going for like young adult, young adult horror things like the Resident Evil books, where it's like, yes, you like the video games? Here's this story set in the universe. Ooh, person being turned into a zombie. Anyway. But, so there'd be all this weird stuff going on. The weakness for the black mold was, like, UV. So, like, sunlight. Or very strong UV lighting. Which, you probably can't just find anywhere. You have to find a UV bulb. And, the idea was then you got a few survivors, including the main character who's out of towner who's just traveling through, but their car needed work. The classics, horror movie things of, oh no, my car broke down. Now I have to, get it repaired, and oh no, I've just walked into town at a really inconvenient time for my life. I had some fun ideas for it though, because you'd get coyotes, which were the idea would be first they get infected, because a coyote den would be a great place for underground. They could take shelter from the sun, and then like the mold takes more control over time. Like first it kind of just gets on, where it could just be easily spread from surface to surfaces to other hosts. But then, it works into their central nervous system, starts taking control of things, maybe amps up the aggression issues, like, most horror movie things like that do. And, over time, I had it so, like, part of the horror with that story was, it does eventually aggressively, like, start consuming the body. Not just build into the nervous system and puppet them, but actually, like, it starts dissolving them, eating them, at an accelerated rate. And they become just these walking blobs of fuzzy black mold and slime as their bodies are being digested by the mold on them. That was an interesting story. That's another on the list of, I think I wrote it from start to finish, but it was needed refining. I never got around to going back through it, and I had never improved my writing enough to be able to improve on it. I hope I still have a copy of that somewhere, and it hasn't been lost in an old computer that's broken down or something like that. I've been trying to convert more of my books over into like a Drive file on Google Drive, because that way at least they're digitally preserved in the cloud, or to have them saved on an external hard drive. I think I've got them on both now, but I really have to dig through things. And I should get back to my old writing at some point, but you try finding time for that. It's bad enough when you're actually doing it and you have a job doing that. Even harder now, like that. I'm a parent, I've got work, I've got kids to raise, I'm running this YouTube channel, and I'm trying to keep that functioning, and with an aggressive release schedule. It would have been nice if the YouTube channel had ever taken off effectively and I could have made that part of my job. But you know what? It's a hobby. And it's fun, and I'm sticking to it just because it's what I like to do. I'm still not good at it in my own opinion, and some of you would probably agree. I'm not super entertaining most of the time. I don't reach anything unique in my audience or in my content. What I do is tends to be stuff that lots of other people have done. Some of them have done better. Most people have better. Probably, I feel maybe I'm a little harsh on myself. I don't know, but I feel there's a lot of people that are definitely better looking than me. My go-to average look, unless I really work at it, is, are you a hobo? type deal, and I don't know what it is, but that's the look I tend to naturally slip into. Just overall appearance-wise. The way I dress, the way I just generally look, my physical build. I've never done drugs, but I kind of look like I might have done drugs sometimes. And it's just because of the way my genetics turned out. With some of my overall physical ability, physical layout. Fun times. Genetics is a whole story. I should maybe one of these episodes of PowerWash Simulator just talking about genetics and the weird quirks of that. History of genetics, weird stuff there. I guess I've already kind of shared some stories of that with you here, even just in this episode. But genetics is weird, and my family genetics is very strange at times, and my personal genetics is very strange at times. Some people can't lose weight to save their lives. I can't put on weight to save my life. I am probably at my heaviest, I think I've been in life, was like 140. And I'm 5'8". 5'8", barely, like on the dot, 5'8". Height. And, yeah, weight, 130 usually. I think heaviest was 140. And I've never been able to, like, go above that. And that's what some people would kill for. But it has its disadvantages at times too, let me tell you. Because, I get sick with something that's going to affect my diet or ability to process foods, and I'm going to be in major issues of starvation. Because I don't have storage. I don't have fat stored up for anything for long-term illness. In college, when I was actively working out, I'm pretty sure I had, like, under 10% body fat. Probably under 5%, really. And that was just because when I work out, I do have this physical trait of, when I work out, my body just goes, muscle, muscle, boom, done. You have muscle. And that leads to some fun situations, like even at work, like when I'm at work and just something needs to get moved around. I'm not a big guy. And then I can go and just pick something up and move it, which, isn't light. And I can go and pick them up and get them moved around. And you move a bunch of cases of trading cards, which may not sound like it does, but those things weigh a ton. You're basically just colored cardboard is what most is how you could. Well, it's not cardboard. I guess it's more like cardstock. What would be the right term for what they make trading cards out of? But anyway, some paper variant. And usually a case has anywhere, depending on the game, anywhere between 4 to 10 or 12 displays of cards in. and I can often pick up 3 or 4 cases at a time and move them around easily. I know how to lift without. It helps that I know how to lift, without the whole lift with your legs, not your back, please. Helps a ton. Goes a long way. If I didn't, I would probably be in a lot more trouble because my back would be destroyed. But yeah, there's been multiple times I can go and just lift something and pick it up, and it doesn't look like something I should be able to because it's big and heavy and I'm not. That's another fun genetic thing. How did I get on this subject? I don't remember. I was talking about black mold and writing. So back to black mold. Black mold creatures. I went in the story. I kind of followed, like I said, I was in kind of Resident Evil, so I kind of followed a series of progressions with some of the things that the character would encounter as the story progressed. There was, of course, the coyotes that were infected were the main thing, and then they get to the point where, oh wait, well, they're like super infested coyotes. It's not just a coyotes acting weird. It's like, no, that's some weird black monster dog that is strangely pain resistant because it's not really alive anymore. People can also be infected and everything, but like early stages, if you catch it early stages, you can burn off and get like a strong UV light or get exposed to the sun before it takes control enough. You can burn it off before it infects your nervous system fully, and you can save someone who's been infected. And then I went to other deals like, but what if there's, also something that has been infected for a longer time and has set up somewhere? There was I think I had a movie theater that, small town movie theater, only like 1 or 2 screens, but the place was a mess. And this thing in there would, lure people in with a mimic of it would mimic a person in appearance, like calling for help and waving people in. But then once they got inside, out of the sun and into the dark of the inside of the theater, it would grab them, and it was this massive thing doing the anglerfish deal with a human like puppet. But otherwise, it was just this tentacle monstrosity that was on the ceiling in one of the movie theater zones. A conglomeration of multiple infected individuals and creatures that had gotten, brought in over time from this town being depleted after this thing had started infecting people and catching them off guard, and they couldn't deal with it because they didn't know, UV was the way to do it, and it was very aggressive and quick spreading, so a lot of people, when they get infected, don't make it till sunrise before to get, out in the sun and get treated. In that way, they instead get controlled enough that, they avoid the sun, and then they get even more controlled until the point of no return. They're a zombie, they're a slime monster. That was one of my story ideas. I really should do something like that for my D&D parties sometime. I think that would be a fun D&D idea of a town that's been overrun by this infectious thing, and maybe it's only susceptible to higher concentrations of fire and radiant damage. Some undead viral curse type deal, but not quite a zombie virus. More of it's something else that's controlling them, like the black mold idea, the cordyceps fungus, cordyceps fungus, that sort of deal. What's that being? Is that because I got a new star? Probably. Completion level, I think we're 3 stars in, so that's over halfway at this point. Good. This is multi-purpose. Alright, let's change this up. Let's go to here. Let's switch to the multi-purpose. Oh, I don't remember noticing that that indicator on the bottle itself before. I always was looking at the bottom left where it has the image. I wasn't looking at the actual bottle on my sprayer there and seeing that it has a little white bar that goes down over time. Sorry, getting distracted by cool things, that little details they put into this game. Just little things that you don't always expect. Refill. The main thing I dislike with this sprayer setup is it becomes suddenly useless as soon as the equipment like runs out because the spray is so misty. It's not effective, and so as soon as it runs out of the cleaning agent, and it's just water again. While the normal sprayer is just water, but it's way more effective because it's got a lot more pressure, I guess. Anyway, yeah, I should probably have done this sooner. This is going much faster for the walls, and probably the ground in general should be faster with this thing. Definitely gets rid of the graffiti much easier. Yeah, that works fairly well. Multi-purpose metal? I don't know. What is metal? What is the metal here? Something in here is metal, but I don't know quite what. Parts of the bowl are metal, parts of it aren't. Okay, got it. Most of it is multi-purpose stuff. I forget how much these things cost to use. Like, how much of my funds am I burning through with refills here? That was the other reason I don't like using them as much, because it's like, yeah, okay, sort of effective on certain things, but then also, then I have to pay for it a lot more. Takes out of the profit, which then I can't use to get new sprayers and other attachments. You know, get better stuff. So far, so good. This, I have to admit, this is probably faster by a lot than if I was just going over it with the sprayer normally. Because it does, while it only works when it has the cleaner, it does cover a much larger area. We're not really finishing off an area right now. We're getting a lot of general ground coverage, which is going to end up finishing off a bunch of areas soon, as soon as we get them cleaned up enough that areas start clicking. We're covering a lot of larger areas. This quarter pipe. Oh, because this counts as part of the quarter pipe too. Okay. Well, that's different. I would have expected that to have counted as part of, a separate wall. There we go. I was like, why does this quarter pipe still say it's so dirty when it's not? I've gone through this quarter pipe. It's because I didn't get the wall next. I'm gonna have to get up on there. For this wall. That's the list of. That's the easier for later thing. Let's focus on this area down here right now. I remember what else I had in that story. I feel like there was something else I probably used for like creature development over time. I know there was, a lab person who had been studying the mold and had some UV lights, like extra industrial strength type UV lights to help contain his study, but also it was still loose, and the idea was it had gone out of it had gone out of containment at some point in the past and was now the main body of it was actually in a mine, an old like gold or coal mine out that way. I can't remember exactly why I had settled on for what it was. That was a fun thing with the black mold setup. Of, oh yes, it's over here, but it's also over here, and I can't remember how much of a hive mind I had it as. I don't think I properly... I think that was one of the things I needed to go back through and improve on, was I wanted to have sort of a hive mind setup, and I hadn't really made it that way. Why is there a soccer ball in here? Is it getting in my way? And if I wanted to try to play with it, but this game doesn't have that good a setup for me, a lot of controls for me. I'll just play with that in here, I don't think. Yeah, it's a little fun to do that with, I guess, but not amazing. There we go. The rail is going to need something else. Clean it. I think I can get up on the wall. Boing. Yeah, there we go. Much better. Okay, that was a weird, awkward climb. Like, I kind of climbed down that slope there and felt kind of like I wasn't really supposed to be able to, but because of the way it's placed and everything, it made it work. Because it's like, oh, well, you can't really fall out either, so yeah, you can walk on this. I find it interesting that they kind of get some areas that are outside, but then as soon as you get like outside this area, it's suddenly clean. It's like, so how is this place still filthy otherwise? Because there's some things not adding up here. There we go. Another railing that I need to get clean. I'm gonna have to go through and get all these railings worked on at some point. I think I'm gonna have to get a PowerWash setup of other sorts. Ooh, I'm actually out of cleaner. Shop. Cleaning liquids. That was only 10 each. Okay, at least that's better than it could have been. Well, there's only 2 in stock, though. Alright, I'll just restock on all those. And let's change this up. Yes, we're going to a different theme. We're close enough with this. Yeah, that should work. Cover a slightly larger area while we do this. Alright. I wonder if I should get a ladder over here, because this is a little awkward to try to reach this upper portion. At least this area I can just go underneath it and be right up under it enough that it should work. Interesting look to this. Like, what is up with this ring? I don't know. I've never skated a bunch, so I don't know much about skate park designs, but like, would this be something people would actually ride on? Would they try to do a loop or something, or go on top of it? On top of it feels like it'd be dangerous, but easier, but probably no more dangerous than trying to go upside down on this thing. Like, I don't know how this design would work in real life. Say, does the washer of yours work on hedges? That is a weird question. I mean, would it work on a hedge? Would a power washer work on a hedge? Now that's a weird question. Okay. Do you want the hedge to be alive afterwards? If not, then yeah? Otherwise, I'm pretty sure you'd have to have the head, like, you'd have to have the power washer set to a very loose, widespread stream, and it would just be no more than, like, it would be, you might as well just get a normal hose and water the hedge at that point and spray it down. Because that's what you'd have to do to not kill the hedge. Because a normal hedge, being water blasted with pressurized water would, you know, shred leaves off of this poor thing. That would be... Yeah, don't do that. That just seems like a bad idea. I mean, it's called a power washer for a reason. Because it's a power washer. It has a lot of power behind it. And it's spraying water at a very high velocity. There we go. Alright, 4 stars. I think we're most of the way through this place now. Yeah, a lot of this was just open space that we needed to get to. And the walls. Quarter pipe. Okay, this is all one giant quarter pipe piece, even though that's also kind of otherwise. Oh, I see a weird change in the angle right there. That would be a mess if you hit it bad with a skateboard. I bet that would crack real badly. Like, not crack the build of this place, but like throw off your skate. You're skating and probably catch your skateboard at an awkward angle. And yeah, it might be cracking some bones more than anything. And maybe some skateboards if they're hit it really badly and, you know, snap a tire off. Something that I had never heard of really until I was out west for a while. They also have something called a longboard. It's basically just an extra big skateboard. And that was something that I had never heard of until I had gone out west. And they were like all the rage out there at the time. Which was an interesting thing. Like, they were the big thing for out there compared to skateboards or skates, rollerblades. The longboard was like the go-to for a lot of people. I thought that was a very interesting just thing at the time. Of course, nowadays I have no idea what the big thing is that people are into with that sort of recreation. Probably something else by now. Times change and all that, and that was some years ago. The older I get, the more time seems to slip on by. Now I'm thinking of Space Jam. Time keeps on slipping, slipping, slipping into the future. I wanna fly, fly right into the future. Don't remember all the lyrics to that song. But yeah. That's what I'm reminded of. Okay, ramp is nearly done. Let's go up here like this. Where am I missing a spot? I'm missing a spot. Black spots. Okay, seriously, where's the spot? I don't see a spot. Unless this is not kindness a ramp. This is not the ramp right here. So where's... Oh wait, okay, where? Aha! Okay, we got that, we got that. Did I ever get this railing? I did not. Alright, where is the dirt on you? There, there, there. Alright. Maybe I should have swapped to something a little higher powered for that. Because that area did not seem to want to quite give up. Alright, got that, got that. This wall, I missed a spot. I can easily fix though. Or maybe not. Not as easy to get up that high as I thought. There we go. Alright. I love how the ward like just stops at a certain distance. It's like, ah yes, very normal water here. Nothing strange about it. Just stops existing after like 3 feet. Totally normal water. Takes all the grime out of existence with it. That's how we can clean. We're not actually running a PowerWash simulator here. We're running a weird genie in a bottle junk. Type of genie in a bottle type cleaning service. Everything goes in here. Water comes out. Our endless supply of water comes out of the elemental plane of water, goes through and then out back into the elemental plane of water, taking the dirt with it. That sounds like a D&D setup you could totally see someone doing. Except for, let's see, elemental plane of water. That wasn't... Which genie type was that? I'm trying to remember now. If reach for the fire genies for the elemental plane of fire. Was it Jinn or were those air related? I can't remember. I know there's one for... No, there was... What was it called? There was a specific genie type that was for water. And they were... I forget what type. If I remember right, they were not the nicest of genie types either. Being a little more loose on the slavery of other races and that sort of thing. Which is a funny thing coming from, you know, a genie which is a genie type of creature which is also known for being slaves themselves. Like the whole Trapped in a Lamp 3 Wishes deal. I wonder what the current D&D lore is on that. Or what the old lore exactly was on that, too, because I can kind of see it being like part of the reason that genies are so commonly used in that slave situation is because their own people have a tendency to sell them into it or something like that. I can totally see that happening. If it's like a weird cultural thing or whatever, but I doubt we'd ever get answers from the current setup. Wizards is very touchy about getting into anything like an actual reason why a party of heroes might come along to save the day. They don't like doing evil things that might have some view on actual, evil things in real life. They don't like touching the socio-political hot topics. Even though those are definitely things that should really be addressed in sort of the moral games if you want to go into a moral type run. And it would be nice if they gave some DMs, a little more to work with than This is a genie type thing that likes to enslave other races. Woo. And we're never going to touch on that aspect of it, so here's all this other stuff about it. Almost done with this place. I have a feeling we're going to get the skate park floor, like the main floor done, and it's suddenly going to be like, here's $600. Boom. Done. I guess it can't be 600, but like 300 would be a significant portion of the bill. Alright, where am I missing on this thing? Missing just enough that it's being problematic. There we go. I do like the texture they chose for this skate park flooring. Like, you can see it especially when it's wet. There's like, it's not completely flat. It's strangely got like little grooves and everything in it. I wonder what that design they went for is. Like, what is that called pattern-wise? Of course, I also find it funny, like, how they just have designed some of this game in general. It's a good design. I mean, it works well for what it does. But sometimes it's just so weird. Ah, that is some filthy stuff. Nice to see it gone. I've heard they're making a PowerWash Simulator 2. I'm not sure how that's going to handle. Like, how are they going to change it up to make it reasonably a new game? Instead of just a DLC they could sell for this game. What are they going to change in it that will make it a unique standalone game? And it's still PowerWash Simulator. And they've already shown they can do a ton with this one because they've got a lot of DLC for this. I mean, I've got a few of the DLCs, and there's a bunch of free like ones you can do, but there's a buttload of buyable DLC that opens up, you know, new missions and quest lines, as it were, for cleaning different things. So I'm kind of surprised they went, let's make a number 2 instead of just, here's 6 more DLC for the original. Or if they're going to change up how some of it handles, and that, like, enough to change up the system out of the ordinary from how this one has been established. That would be my guess anyway as to how they're going to make a number 2 and make it work. Instead of just going, yes, it's the same game, but with new maps and everything else. It's like, cool, yeah, at that point you'd just be like, why not just have done this as a paid DLC? I suppose the idea is maybe, of course, then you could get into the idea of marketing. What sells better, core games or DLC? And the answer is probably core games, for the most part. Because not everyone who plays a game is going to like it enough to want to have a DLC for it, even if it's a good DLC. We see this with board games as well a lot. There'll be a bunch of additional components, or like, here's a whole new campaign for your game, a new scenario, or whatever. But it's like, the thing that sells the most, the core game. Or core games, if there's multiple standalone ones. Those are what will sell more than the DLC. Or the expansion, as they are sometimes called. And that is a weird one to look at sometimes, I guess. And I don't know how that translates into the video game arena. Would a DLC sell as well or better for a good game than just making a new game with as if it were like, even though it could be a DLC, but you just make it bigger, add in like basically put multiple DLCs together into one and then call it a new game. Does that still sell better than if you had just done all the DLCs separately? I'm betting the answer is probably actually yes. Because humans are funny like that, and we tend to just, I don't know. When I think about all the games that I have that I do get the DLCs for, it's like it's a good game with good DLC. Like, that's a tough one. But then I guess a lot of the ones I do get the DLC for, the DLC is either like a whole new story, or it integrates with the original story in such a way that like they're just parts of each other at that point. Kind of like Elden Ring. You know, you can just go to the DLCs areas, or actually a lot of the Souls games from FromSoft tend to have that. It's like, alright, you've got the DLCs installed. Now if you just go into this area and interact with this thing, you'll go over here instead, which wasn't a thing before. There wasn't this whole section of map and whatnot over there, or a whole new map. But now you've entered the Ringed City, Dark Souls 3, and all this horrible stuff here, and why is that? You've been cast into the future! Would be a shame if you were to come across horrors beyond your recognition here. And maybe an old friend who is less friendly now due to a bit of madness. For reasons. So many things you can do. Oh, okay. Well, it was 100. Wasn't bad for the floor. It was still a pretty good payoff for it, but not as much as I was expecting for how big this floor section was. Let's see, we've got this middle... They call this a spine? I'm not super familiar with the terminology for these sorts of things. Huh. Is that what they really call it? Interesting. You grind along the top of that, or just go off of it, flip on it. You could do all sorts of things with this, I suppose. Interesting concept. And we're, what, 99% clean. We're almost done. Good, because I'm kind of coming up dry on topics to talk about right now. The stories I shared went a lot quicker than I really thought they would. And this cleaning took a lot longer. Right, where is the dirt? We are missing the dirt in some little spots. Where are you? I must get you cleansed. We can get rid of this last sliver. There we go. Okay, where else am I missing? No. We got there. Railing. Missed something on you. Where? On top? On this side? There we go. There we go. Oh, so the walls are not done. Okay. Interesting. Which wall? Oh, wait. This wall. Okay. Where's my ladder? It's gonna be easier if I just go grab that thing. Do. There we go. Jump. There we go. Okay. Yep, I see what we missed. Alright, that one's done. Not there. Probably one, yep, wall there. Okay, something over there I missed. And the gate? Oh, I didn't think about the gate itself. Yep, there we go. Alright, gate's done. That part's done. That part's done. One wall left. Which wall is it? At least it's like clearly wall. So it's like, alright, I just have to find the right wall. Not a whole, well, what even is this thing that I need to clean? Alright, now I'm kind of starting wondering where it is, though. Because I'm not seeing it. Oh, this wall. Okay, where did I miss the spot on this? There we go. Done. And gallery bench. Gallery bench. That's one I'm like, what is that? What is that counted as? This thing? Okay. I must have missed a spot on it. Oh, I never did see it blink, did I? Ah, okay, I see. It's got some ingrained bits. I love this being able to push tab and just see what's cleaned and isn't. It really makes a big difference sometimes with things like this where apparently this isn't quite clean, but I can't actually see most of it. Job complete. There we go. I love these little recaps too. This is a nice touch for the game because you can just see how did you do and like you see your methodology loosely. In my case, it's kind of taking them section by section. Great job, Dirt Finder. Scrubbed up kind of neat, didn't it? Beats me how you do it all with just a jet of angry water. Not that folks seem grateful. All I'm getting so far is gas from the Baggy Pants Brigade complaining they don't look stick no more, which is surely the point. Alright, so yeah, now we've got clean the motorbike and sidecar, clean the fire truck, and clean the forest cottage. Alright. Progress. Made a good bit of progress through completing things. I wonder what we'll have after this. I definitely want to hit the DLC for the Warhammer DLC at some point. I'll have to talk Warhammer stuff then. That would be fun. For now, that should do it for tonight. Thanks everyone so much for watching. I hope you're enjoying it. Hit like and subscribe to keep up with the releases if you haven't done so already. And good night, everyone. Bye.